Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday, and that means another installment of the E29 Journeys podcast. My name is Ernie Ramirez, owner of E29 Baseball and Softball Training in Riverside. Today, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Chihuahua Cerveza, Chihuahua in Newport. The tap room is now wide open. Head on down, grab some lunch, try one of their wonderful beers. Also, 100% Media. These are the guys that make everything happen, from our video to our editing to our posting. And of course, Adam Schwartz, Real Estate. Adam is the one that provides our luxurious office here in Riverside. So if you get a chance, if there's anything you need as far as investments or real estate, give Adam a call. Today, very fortunate, I have a local celebrity here, the head coach of Riverside City College, Rudy Arguelles. And Rudy, thanks for coming in.
Oh, Ernie, I appreciate it. I think celebrities overdoing it, but I do appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
No, well, again, like we talked before, I'm very fortunate in an unfortunate situation that all the coaches have this downtime. So sometimes I think it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air. You know, everyone needs a break every now and then, and sometimes you have to be forced to take a break or you won't ever do it. But for you, you know, we wouldn't have this opportunity to sit down and chat.
Blessings. It's all about perspective, you know?
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit out in the front, you know, as we always do. We kind of start to our little warm up, but then we get going on other things. And so, you know, this is cool for me because we've never really had a chance to sit down and chat. I think we might have talked at a field once or twice for 4 or 5 minutes and then maybe exchange texts and things. But so what we always start with is I have the coaches or I have anyone that comes in for the interview. Just tell us about your journey. How did you get to where you are today? And as I mentioned, go as far back as you want. If you got a childhood memory, go ahead and throw that in, something from Little League.
The journey. Here, let me take a drink on that one because those who are familiar with me and my journey, it's really untraditional.
Yeah,
it's unconventional. You talk about second chances, and really what heeds really our level of community college opportunity and students and student athletes. It's those people that run into those situations and possibly able to overcome, whether it be adversity or circumstances out of their control, and then be given the opportunity for second chance. And really, that's really my journey. You know, I'm a local guy that grew up in Corona, moved to Norco, where I still reside today. Graduated from Norco High School, played for Don Harris and Gary Parcell.
Okay.
Frank Martinez was one of our coaches as well. The eldest, Mike Darr, was one of our coaches on staff as well. So I was fortunate there in high school to kind of have, you know, that tutelage and guidance as well. Then I had a blessing and had the opportunity to go to Riverside City College as a student athlete and play for Dennis Rogers, who anybody who knows Riverside City College, it's, you know, the first name that usually pops into their head, and it should,
right,
is Dennis. And, you know, Don Harris is the one that, you know, was kind of promoting and encouraged me, you need to go. And there was a lot of assistance with 2 former teammates, with Randy Curtis and Craig Benham, who were already on staff Dennis's first year there. So I had made up my mind, had a couple conversations with him, and it was like, hey, I have to play for this guy. I have to play for this guy. So I did. I graduated in 1990. Went to the Riverside City College in the fall of '90 to play for Dennis. Some unfortunate circumstances that happened with my parents, my grandparents. I say my parents. They raised me, and they were both forced into retirement during that first semester there at RCC and during the fall. So I didn't end up finishing the fall. Took the reins and went to work, try to help support the situation at home. Did that, took some jobs, worked for a rock quarry, Owl Rock Products during that time. Ended up getting married and had my first child, my oldest, Rudy, who's 27, who's blessed me with 2 grandchildren that I have today. Amazing. During that time, I was laid off, ended up finding another job with former teammate. We talk about being in that network and people giving back, you know. assisted me, and I worked at a corrugated products place down in Santa Fe Springs called Inland Container. Did that, grueling hours. I mean, there was a point in time, 28 straight days. There was no shift that was less than 10 hours, up to 16 hours a day. It was a grind, but it was what we had to do.
Sure.
You know, it was your responsibility, and take care of those duties. Ended up having a little injury there, and had an epiphany moment, like, can I do this for the rest? I can do it, but do I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Right.
So long story short, and this is tough when you say journey, like I said, but made a phone call to Dennis, explained my situation to him. Some years had passed. We're talking 3+, So when I say, hey, blessed with a second opportunity with that amount of time going by, we all know being involved in this game
right.
at the collegiate level and higher, your odds are not very good.
Right, that window closes.
So that window, I was hoping at least had a crack, and let me take it by the reins and let me do what I can do. And the discussion that I had, from a family standpoint, was if I can't play for this man and go back and finish what I started, then I'll continue to work, hold the jobs I need to do from a family standpoint. I'll give up the baseball, but I need to get my education. That was my whole goal and focus. So it ended up working out. I don't want to get into all the details and sacrifices of that journey where I was able to, earn my opportunity, but I was blessed to play 2 years there. After that, I transferred to Arizona State and played for Pat Murphy and Doug Schreiber and Nino Giarratano. Got to go to the College World Series in 1998. Heart still aches when we talk about Omaha and the World Series and talk about USC.
Yeah.
But lost in the national championship there. I was fortunate to have a little opportunity and was drafted by the Angels organization at that time, and spent a little time with them. And during that time, Dennis was always calling, and that was kind of his MO, reaching out and keeping it in the family. And I think you can really be impactful. I think you have a chance to coach, and I think you need to come back. And he had been doing that for probably a couple years at that point in time. And all the minor league guys coming out of the system would come back, and even guys out of the organization that were getting ready for spring training, he would love to have them at the field and engage and interact with the current players and whatnot. And so we did that. So when I was released, I'll never forget, I was released. I made the phone call to him, and he said, hey, man, take some time off. And I said, that's the worst thing for me. That is the worst thing for me. And I had already was fortunate enough to have a situation where I was teaching a couple classes, and I was already attached to the current roster and team. So I said, nah, I don't want any time off. If you don't mind, I want to come back and just start where we left off.
Sure.
My time's over as a player. I get it and anticipate it. Again, those years, my age bracket had put me up there. So came back and continued the coaching aspect of it, and to be honest with you, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me to be able to have that opportunity, go through the journey I did, be able to give my experiences and give back to these young men who have those visions, who have those dreams, and help them and guide them along the way. And it's been finishing up year 21 now at RCC.
Wow.
Now.
Yeah, seems like a long time ago.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, there's nothing there's no details that I would say are irrelevant in those journeys, So I try to let coaches go and the biggest thing is, like we talked about out in the lobby, what I want the kids looking, or I want the parents to understand, is it's not always, when you see a coach at that level, it's not always a rosy road. Sometimes there's a lot of work to get there. And you know what? It also tells you that you don't necessarily have to take that straight line to where you were. Sometimes, I mean, like I said, by all intents and purposes, you probably thought at some point you were out of baseball for good.
100%.
Yeah. And then now look at where you ended up.
Oh, absolutely.
And so for the kids out there that are watching or looking and things, there's going to be setbacks, period, in work, in life, in baseball. And so the fact that you overcame that, the fact that you were out of baseball, got back into baseball, and then found that successful journey back to where you are today is something that kids need to understand, because sometimes when you look at that coach, you may not think he doesn't understand where I'm coming from, or he doesn't understand how hard I have to work. Most of the time they do.
It was a blessing. I left out some parts, but it was, again, you used the word rosy. There was definitely nothing rosy about it. And I'm grateful and appreciative for what Dennis did. Mm-hmm. He definitely didn't make it easy for me. Sure. He was going to throw the challenges out there and say, hey, mm-hmm. Because once whatever the circumstance is, and once someone decides, hey, I'm walking away, mm-hmm. whether it be, hey, I'm quitting and I'm feeling sorry for myself, or it's a legitimate situation and circumstance that, hey, you got to go take care of responsibilities. The thing is, we don't want to create that pattern to where, hey, mm-hmm. when times get tough,
right,
we go away.
Yeah.
And he absolutely did that. The times have changed now when we recruit and the format, but yeah. There was over 300 guys, and
sure,
he'd list the names. I was the last one on the list. Went through that format. Back in those days, we got to play 30-plus fall games.
Right.
We got to play 4-year institutions, Division I programs along. There was a time, I think, in the 2000s to 2004 where we were playing close to 100 ball games, split squads. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to travel with the main group. It was challenges.
Right.
Stay back. And what I did and what I left out there is I stayed back and worked. Sometimes we didn't get to go play a game. Mm-hmm. We had to work out with one of the coaches that was left behind to work with us and get some reps.
Yeah.
Jump in a car and I'd drive wherever the heck those guys were playing.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter where they were playing. I'd go drive, sit down, wouldn't let anybody know, mm-hmm. take my notes.
Yeah.
What's he doing in this situation? What's he doing in that situation? Things of that nature. Just trying to prepare myself. And I think the time off with the responsibilities, child, things of that nature, being a parent as well, trying to balance those things out. There was no taking anything for granted. So It was like, hey, how do I prepare myself? Because I got to make an impact. I got to catch his attention at some point in time. Whereas, do I feel sorry for myself? Do I make excuses? You know what I mean? So we did that, and some unfortunate circumstances happened with the teammate, and
sure.
We were talking about Sam at COD earlier.
Yeah.
Ironically, we were down to our last 2 fall games, and we had a practice at RCC. Mm-hmm. He took a limited squad to COD down in the desert. I got my workout in. I got in my car, and I drove to Palm Desert. Mm-hmm. And I was in the stands, and he only took 3 outfielders, and that was the other challenge. I was always an infielder, and
sure.
converted me to the outfield position, But one of the guys pulled a hamstring, during pregame warm-ups. He came up to me and said, hey, do you have your stuff? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
Can you be ready in 5 minutes? I ran out to COD, the dirt parking lot, if you're familiar with the place. Put my stuff on, came out, and then, the rest is history.
Yeah.
I was blessed. So that was kind of the thing, and that's something that kind of preached to the guys we come across, whether mm-hmm. they're in the program or, someone comes and approaches, talks about adversity and, mm-hmm. How to handle some things. It's about sharing the information and giving back, really.
Well, what's interesting in listening to you talk about that, a lot of times at the junior college level, you run into a lot of guys that maybe they're not quite ready maturity-wise or don't have an appreciation for the opportunity, and they need that 2 years to grow and to get that. Well, you, in essence, got it by not being there for 2 years. So when you were ready, you knew how to take advantage of those opportunities because you'd had that opportunity taken away from you. And that second chance created a whole different outlook and perspective now, probably looking back. A lot of those things were blessings rather than detriments at the time.
100%. And I think that's, that's the message that, we try to heed, not only to our club, but to everybody out there, that's involved with programs in the game, to where hopefully this younger generation, of players can really attach to what that message and the meaning is. That there is no guarantees. You are actually going through a moment in time right now where it was taken away from you.
Yeah.
So don't ever take anything for granted because you are experiencing it right now.
Yeah. Interesting. We talked about Nick Theodoro too. I remember one of the things that used to frustrate him was he would talk about coming through the minors, guys in the locker room or in the dugout talking about, if I only got my chance. And he would kind of look at him as, what do you think we're getting? You're running on the field. You're getting an opportunity to play. There's coaches here. There's scouts for our organization here. What chance are you looking for? And it kind of falls into those guys that feel like unless they're playing on a major league roster, they're not getting their chance. So a lot of times it's learning that everything is an opportunity for you. Just creating the opportunity for yourself. You could have packed it in after practice, gone home, done whatever you wanted, but you went out and watched the games to continue learning, to get that extra time in and listen and watch and learn. And by doing that, you created an opportunity that probably may not have come had you stayed on the same path you were.
I'm going to say 100% probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
No question. No question.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was all your desire to succeed and not lose sight of that opportunity. And I mean, this is one of the things where when you come in front of a group of even high school kids, or when you're talking to younger players, trying to get them to understand that adversity. And, we've kind of come into that generation. You've got younger players and you're around younger players in that everyone gets a trophy and nobody loses. And we don't use the word cut anymore, or we do evaluations in the showcases, but we don't really talk about a lot of the negative. We just talk about all the things you do well. And sometimes that doesn't really give people motivation, or doesn't really give them any way to learn and grow without that adversity.
I agree 100%. And that is definitely not our mentality as well, along with myself, to where that's not how life works.
Right.
It really isn't. It's not how life works. And again, we talked earlier about, anybody who knows me, they use the word blunt. Mm-hmm. And I tell everybody in our first initial meetings, especially when it comes into the recruiting process or when we're talking, or I meet a new minor league guy that's coming to work out with other guys because they're bringing them along, is, it's the first thing they come to realize, through the interaction and communication conversation piece, is just straightforward.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be more of that, because if we're not identifying us as individuals anyway, what our deficiencies are, how does growth, how does development happen? Sure. Because the sense of complacency and satisfaction comes in, and I think that's what that mentality brings. And try to be honest and decipher with our players as well. Like, hey, this conversation here is, we're dealing with baseball. You as the baseball player, right? Not you as the individual and human being.
Sure.
But here's our deficiencies right here. Embrace it, acknowledge it, because soon as we do, oh man, the development and the acceleration of that development can really be accelerated.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things. And there's some couple years between you and I. I went through RCC before all the good stuff, so I'm just going to leave that alone.
It's family, still family.
So I remember running up that hill there on Magnolia. But, so one of those things too, when you talk to younger players, it's really hard for them to separate that which you had just mentioned. When I'm on the field and I'm giving you input and I'm giving you criticism, for lack of a better word, we're talking about you as the baseball player.
That's it.
And you have to be able to understand he's still going to be that same guy that's going to sit me down and be willing to give me an ear when things go wrong in my personal life. But he's going to give me good advice. And it might be direct, and it might be the answer I want him to give me, but it's going to be what he feels is best for my development on both sides. And so I find that a lot of times with players. And it's funny, you mentioned the word blunt. Everything's perspective.
That's right.
I'm the same way too. You soften it with, well, I'm direct, I'm black and white, or I like to use time efficient. If I try to take the time to sugarcoat it, you may not get the message. But if I just tell you, it might sting a little bit, but you'll walk out and you'll understand what we were talking about. So it's really good that you do that type of thing in the program. And I think a lot of times when you get younger guys now, you might see a difference in how they handle that from maybe 10 years ago, now being 20 years in the game.
100%. And I think it becomes more impactful, and I think it gets absorbed more after time spent, to where, you know, you have the ability and time to gain that trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and once they know what your intent is,
Sure.
they understand, like, this is him. And we talked earlier about, you know, that commitment to us and RCC and our program and the institution, along with the community as well. That commitment back is, you're a son.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Mm-hmm.
Whether my blood's flowing in your veins or not,
Mm-hmm.
you're a son, and I'm going to treat you that way. So it's to gain that trust. They understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the messages may be tough at times,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because like I said, who doesn't want to hear everything that's going to make
Sure.
them feel good?
Yeah.
But it's because I and we have your best interest at heart,
Mm-hmm.
always.
Right.
And sometimes, hey, it's not what we have to hear, but it's things that we have to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So again, so that we can make the adjustments and we can progress.
Yeah. Well, and another cool thing that I like is listening about your background. Try to instill into players that you're still a class. You're an extension of the university. You're just teaching in a different classroom. The same way they're learning on campus in those confined spaces, science, math, whatever it is, your vehicle is different and it's more fun because it's something they enjoy doing. But your responsibility to the university, to the parents, to the kids, is that they come out a better person on the other end. Your delivery just comes through baseball and games, but sometimes kids won't be able to put the two together. You know, there's a lot of things, and I'm sure in 20 years you've probably come across some guys that your experience in life rather than baseball has been more helpful to them than your experience on the field.
100%. And I couldn't agree with you any more as far as what you expressed right now, because that is what it's about. You know, it truly is. It's about the enhancement and the development of the human being first. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've always taken pride in. You know, every program has their pillars, or,
Sure.
you know, the things they want to address and hit upon that, you know, assist the development and enrichment of their culture. And, you know, our three pillars, number one is the human being. Mm-hmm. And we're going to address it in some capacity, some way, on how to improve it and how to maximize being the best human being we possibly can each and every day. Mm-hmm. Pillar number two is, we know everyone wants to pursue the opportunity to have an extended, long career in this game,
Sure.
this beautiful game that we love.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is, the percentages say
Mm-hmm.
we have to have plan B for when Mr. Baseball comes knocking on our door.
Right.
Because we all have it. Not all of us are blessed to have the opportunity like Mr. Jeter, you know, number two,
Yeah.
gets to go out the way he did. That knock's coming. And when he says, hey, you know, Stevie, I appreciate all the time, blood, sweat, tears, commitment, dedication, passion, purpose, intent you gave each and every day to extend your career. But I'm here to let you know, baseball no longer renders your services.
And that happens to more than, yeah.
It happens to all of us. We've all experienced. So when that time comes, yes, we try to put all those traits in. We try to exemplify what it takes to prepare ourselves so that we can compete at high levels and extend those long careers. But we all have that moment in time. So what have we done to set ourselves up for when that knock does come. Where are we going with our lives? What journey and what path are we going to take?
Sure.
So therefore, that's why it is student.
Yeah.
Before the / athlete.
Yeah.
And that is our second pillar. And to have opportunity in the game, if you're at our place, to have opportunity in the game, they can love you. We talk about Nick Theodoro, and okay, let's use UCLA with Coach Savage and his program right now. We'll use that as the example. They can call and say, hey, we really love player A or player B, and the intangibles, the physical talents and abilities, they're easy to identify. But that conversation is not going to stop, and it will not end. We need the transcripts.
Right.
We need the transcripts. Sure. So again, that pillar number 2, the student, is essential, and then 3 is the athlete. It's the baseball player.
Yeah.
And we truly feel that if we do our due diligence and we really embrace, and we're talking now to the players, you embrace that pillar number 1 of really trying to get yourself in a situation on a daily basis where you're trying to be the best person you can possibly be.
Yeah.
And then you're taking care and utilizing all the resources that are going to be provided for you, to be the best student you can be. Pillar number 3, it happens by default usually. Right. And you talk about the years that I've had, being able to sit back and look at the development, the acceleration, and the guys who have been really successful.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 95% of them were exceptional in those 2 pillar areas. It just happens.
Yeah. Well, and as you were talking about that, another thought occurred to me, and I don't want to belittle any other job or occupation because I don't pretend to know about those, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there's a big difference if you were to take some of the highest paying jobs in the country, let's say a physician, an attorney. Both of those can be attained through hard work and perseverance, passing a test, being knowledgeable in that subject, going through your classes. Professional baseball player, it's not your decision solely. You can put in the work. You can do all the things you need to do, but at some point, baseball makes that decision for you. And I'm willing to bet that you could take your 20 years and there's probably far more players on this side with good qualities, physicians, doctors, attorneys, being very successful as people than that line is for professional players.
100,
easily.
100%. And that's really what it's about, and oh man, we can go to the attorneys. We a couple of years ago, Peter McAvoy was, I used to say, Peter was the anomaly. Would we ever have a player come to us at RCC that had time and experience out of high school that went to Stanford University? It'll probably never happen again. You talk about a remarkable mind. Incredible.
Right.
Incredible. And really what a blessing and experience for not only for me, but for the rest of the staff to challenge us where that mind was, oh my, so incredible.
Yeah.
Where it challenged it. It made us better.
Yeah.
And it made us have to adapt and change. But getting back to him, and he transferred back, and he's finishing up at Stanford now, and possibly going to the medical field, because father was there as well.
Yeah.
We have attorneys, we have business owners that are successful, and more importantly, people of influence,
right?
Because they become people of influence. Give back.
Sure.
Give it back. And, successful in life with their families and raising their children now.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is our people are our championships. We all want to raise that hardware on the last day of the season at whatever level you're at, and there's nothing like it. Been blessed to have that opportunity as well. Yeah. But it's really about the development and creating the championship and the people who are really going to be the influence and be able to make the change and give back.
Yeah, and even something like that, when you talk about how Dennis would bring back the professional guys that came through, y'all came from the same pot. That plant grew from the same base, and it just took off in different directions. It didn't all go straight up to Major League Baseball. It went in different directions, but all the foundation came from the same. So having those guys around, you probably have some guys in the program now that they kind of see the writing on the wall, or they're smarter than I was and not understanding, hey, this is going to end in 2 years. Let's just look for something else, or let's start transitioning. But those kind of guys that have that foresight can see how RCC and the education and the process of what you're giving them with baseball is going to help them down the road. And I think that's kind of the essence of a junior college program. You might move off into four-year university, draft, things like that, but ultimately you're there to learn all of the things that baseball can give you outside of the field.
Oh, absolutely. And the carryover. And again, it's all about the process. Mm-hmm. And what are you doing to enhance your opportunities, like we discussed earlier. But there's no question. And with that, that's why we're definitely not a program that believes in majorly big rosters.
Mm-hmm.
We've always prided ourselves in trying to keep those numbers down, to where it becomes functional to be able to maximize the repetitions and when we get on the field aspect
Sure.
of things as well. But that preparation that goes into it absolutely assists them. And it's like, we're fortunate here to where, yes, we're the only team outside of our conference, but our conference has a reputation, and it's something that's been an attraction that's allowed us not only create a history, but to be a part of that conference as well. It's an attraction for those young men to come to our place. And they know that the chances are going to be very high that if you come here, you succeed here, and you put up the numbers from a baseball standpoint in this conference. And even if you're not blessed with a major role, let's say a bigger role when the season comes around, but you're part of that conference and you've had the experience in there, been fortunate enough to be able to have opportunities to move on. And the biggest thing is finish those degrees. Finish those degrees.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed with that at whatever levels, whether it be the Division I level, Division II level, NAI level. It's something that's preached to our guys as well. Yes, we want to shoot for the highest opportunities and levels, but hey, understand what the process brings, and it's really about the platform that you're given. Maximize the platform. Understand that that's where your 2 feet are standing.
Sure. You
embrace it, and what are you going to do to enhance the situation, whether it be from an individual or from the team concept, And I think that goes into play as far as kind of what you're alluding to there.
Yeah. Well, you would know more than I do about this, being on campus and being on the staff. And I'm just thinking back over the last, let's just say 20 years, how much that campus has changed and grown, and the field has changed, and from where I remember it going back. But maybe you could kind of let everyone know a little bit about some of the changes that you've seen, whether it be on campus, classes they've added, things that they've done, field, maybe some things that you guys have planned down the road for improvements, or things that that they're going to be renovating or improving.
Well, there are, and the situation we are in right now, it's kind of created a little bit of uncertainty again.
Sure.
Whereas before the COVID-19 scenario took place, we were in line for some bonds and things of that nature. And from my understanding, there are some renovations and some facelifts that are happening and still moving forward with the projects. But from an athletic standpoint, we might have to take a back seat with the initial plans before we were going
Sure.
in, with the bond measures and whatnot. But, the biggest thing is the support system, the community awareness. We're in a situation to where, you have UC Riverside 5 minutes on this side, you got Cal Baptist 5 minutes on this side, and we're in the middle. And to see the growth that's taking place with those institutions kind of helps, and I think gears our institution and administration and whatnot to do what they can to keep us in place and up to date. Would we love to have newer facilities? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? But I think a lot of it goes back to something that Dennis established as well from day one when he got there. Yes, have a daily focus on progressing and improving and getting better, and that goes along with the facilities, and it goes along with taking tremendous pride and learning those responsibilities. And I think we've carried that over for years. Yeah. And I think that's why when people come, it's kind of like our mission inn. Yeah. It's historic. Yeah. It is old, no question. But when you look at the surface and you look at the ball field that we have, the response is usually positive. Like, this is a throwback type of field. This is a real baseball field. Yeah. And that's part of our attraction. That's part of what we give out and display to possible recruits and whatnot. Today's day and age with the cost and things of that nature, who wouldn't want a field like Orange Coast? And yeah. May he rest in peace, with Alto and whatnot. But what an incredible job he was able to do with that program and that field. Everyone would love to have that facility, or you can go down. We talked about Palomar's facility as well. Outstanding, and I think we're gearing towards those things, but it's what we have. It's beautiful. There's a ton of history there. We take tremendous amount of pride. I can't tell you all the hours outside of the teaching curriculum, the practice planning, things of that nature that, we become, grounds crew members as well, and my wife can attest to that. But, it's been nice, and we're in transition right now with an AD position, and for the last 4 years we had Jim Woolridge there, and you look at situation and people where they come in is from day one, it's just kind of like players and where we're at, and can we do our own self-evaluations when the time is up and their tenure is up. Has the situation, has the program, has the organization, has the department, has it gotten better? And 100% we have. So we're grateful for the facelifts and equipment and new halo and things of that nature that have taken place. The renovations that have happened as well. And I think it goes back to relationships and the people that you meet and how you treat people, and it comes back to you, and not wanting to take advantage of situations and not ask for too much. This is what the essentials and what we need, and I think people will be more inclined to help assist you. So hopefully that continues, and we continue to make improvements. But man, to play on a natural surface and the surface that we have, we're pretty fortunate, and I think that's why it's a big attraction, especially if you're a right-hander or if you're a left-hander and you're toting that mound, and being able to pitch in that true big ballpark. Yeah,
it's still a beautiful stadium. And when you go there, it still looks brand new at certain times. You're on it more than I am, but when you come in there, it looks brand new, and it looks always well maintained and well kept. And it's interesting, as we were talking earlier. You're born and raised Corona Norco. I grew up in Rialto, so San Bernardino County, and I'm going on 35 years in Riverside County. And so having a lot of the local coaches in, I keep telling them one of the things that I really enjoy is the proximity of everybody, because you've got your campus, you've got CBU, which is Division I. Gary's done a great job over there. You've got UCR, all within 5 minutes of each other. La Sierra University right down the road within 5. I mean, everything is right here, and all of the high schools that you've got here, and all the talent that you have, and not even just saying Southern California, just saying in this Riverside, 15 miles in any direction proximity. So this is actually geographically a baseball town. 100%. And there's so much talent here, and so it's really nice to see that the schools have grown with that, and they've been able to adapt and almost kind of work in connection with each other accidentally. You get a lot of guys that you can see now. You don't have to go far to find talent. You don't have to go far to find good recruits that can build your program, or there's opportunities at your school rather than them having to look outside of Riverside. I mean, everything you want baseball-wise is right here.
100%, and we've always believed that. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we've always tried to take care of our immediate area, or in some sense your backyard.
Sure.
Be prevalent, be present, do your due diligence on your side as well, so that you're out there, you're going out there to see, let your eyes, do your evaluations, your assessments, create your lists, circumstantial, some things, be in the privy of what's going on. But it's something that, again, I'll go back to what Dennis established, where it was never a program about focusing absolutely from the player standpoint, even though that is the utmost importance, no question. But his vision and what he wanted to do was take it to the next level as well, and it was about the growth and development, and assisting that coach to take advantage of the same things as the player and prepare them. So with that that recruiting process, it was something that, if you were going to take part in, you had to understand. If you had visions of moving on, just like the players as well, you're going to have to take care of the recruiting aspect and learn that process as well, and pay your dues and pay the dividends and go out there and put the time in, and always take care of the backyard, take care of your immediate areas, make sure you're prevalent in San Bernardino and Riverside County, and then again, see where you're at, and if you're expanding and going out, you do what you need to do, and gather that experience and make sure that you're being identified just like the players are being identified with the coaches at the next level, so that you can create that tab. And you alluded to Dennis's tree, that was created, and it just didn't go straight up, and that's why there's so many branches to it, because the attention to detail and the importance that he put on to the recruiting process. And again, it was put on, number one, for that reason there, and number two was be as selective as we possibly can with our players, so that our numbers don't get outrageous,
right,
and then you don't garner that type of reputation where people are being upset. But you get into this profession, you understand you're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah, it's impossible to do that. And again, I think a lot of that is perspective. If you understand your side of the process and you're ultimately trying to help every one of those players, even if it's only a brief interaction with you before it's time for them to move on, it's still something that they can learn from and grow from. And one of the things that we try to talk to kids about, or I try to tell them, is with again, going way back, I'm still from the one town, one high school era, and you wanted to play from Little League with this high school and from this high school with this college, and I talked about this a little bit with Steve Madrill. He was talking about wanting to go back to kind of an old Riverside high school league, and of course Jason Klug comes after me. I don't want to play those guys. It's still baseball. The whole point is you create that environment, kind of like that Texas small town football where everybody gets competitive, and all the high school kids, their goal is to move up and play for the local JC and then move on to the local D1 school and create that little empire of baseball here where people want to come to us, but our guys are being competitive to try to get those spots so they don't have to go out of state again. I mean, I would love to see that happen locally.
Oh, I think we all would. But I mean, the whole youth situation with travel and and the showcase and the ideology and getting out there and be seen as much as you can, and let's get into the tournaments and things of that nature. A little tough with that situation there, but I see where Steve's talking and where he's coming from, and there's something to be said with, when you come across a player, and you have to include the family as well, to where they showed the ability to go through a grind. They showed the ability to address adversity. Whatever the adversity may have been, whether it been, hey, didn't have my opportunity to really play until my junior year. Some instances, from a senior standpoint, but the transfer situation never came about.
Right.
And there's a sense of like, whoa, I think it shows a lot of character. I think it shows a lot of makeup of that individual to be able to be committed, stay loyal, stay committed. I'm going to show that I can address the adversity and overcome and put myself in position to contribute. And again, some situations and circumstances are out of control, and you can see both sides of that scenario where the transfer becomes prevalent. I think I just read an article the other day of a player that is moving on and is identified and has been blessed with a scholarship at a D1 level. I had 4 high schools, 4 different high schools under their belt. That's tough. I mean, that's tough within itself.
Yeah.
Well,
and talking to Steve too last week, and you kind of being in the same area, you kind of wondered down the road where that attachment's going to be, because and you probably have the same friends from way back that you still talk to, communicate with, and you just have those foundations from that common ground that you had growing up that you don't have if you're kind of moving around all the time, especially in the high school time where that's where you're kind of finding your way as an adult, but you're not quite there, so you kind of go through a lot more emotional type things. But when you're moving around like that, it's got to be tough.
And I think a lot of us, the success that we have been able to experience and have with our history, tradition, things of that nature, here particular at RCC, is because of our perspective as well. And we understand the way the format is now, with whether it be the private sector, how many elite teams are there with that attachment to how many scout ball teams to everything is progressed now where there's so many opportunities and so many things that are out there to be able to get exposure now. And really it comes down to these parents making all that investment, for their children. We understand. I think what's assisted us and helped us is we understand that we know 99.9% of them are not getting to that point where, recruiting process is starting, whether it be sophomore year, junior year especially. And, we don't really come hot and heavy, so to speak, and that communication, gets really tied into where we're trying to, enlighten them and let them know what the opportunity is for RCC until basically senior year.
Right.
But we know 99.9, they're not waking up and going, I can't wait to be an RCC Tiger. We know that.
Yeah.
We understand that.
Yeah.
That's out of our control, but we understand, and I'll get back to what you were alluding to with what you were saying there is it comes around. We understand. So it's, continue to stay in communication. We wish them all the best and whatnot. We know 4-year institutions come in that, whether they've done the homework or not done the homework and have really identified is that the program that's going to best benefit my needs or the circumstances that I'm going in to give me the best opportunity for myself, whatever the circumstances may be. Wish them the best, always wish them the best, and we truly mean it. And understand that, when it doesn't, you have the portal now or circumstances come about, let's reconvene. Let's reconvene. And the majority of the times, to be honest with you, Ernie, it's those players that come back is understand, get over the hurdle that, hey, now I'm coming back to a JC situation. I got this.
Yeah.
Get over that mentality.
Sure.
Those are the guys who end up usually struggling. It's the guys that come back, regardless of the JC scenario or whatnot, but come back and understand, hey, man, it didn't work out, so let's get ready. Let's have a purpose each and every day. Let's absorb it. I understand where my 2 feet are right now. I'm embracing that is the best scenario and situation for me to be in right now, and I'm going to maximize. Those are the guys.
Yeah.
They take off.
Yeah. And that's tough, too, because sometimes, again, that follows a hard conversation somewhere, and that, oh, wow, I woke up and this isn't what I thought I was. And so, since you mentioned it, I'm gonna kind of take you down that road. You have sons, and you talked about travel ball and youth baseball and things. And so one of the things, and this is just kind of a perspective, because none of us really have an option as far as knowing everything about it. But if there's something that you've seen in the past 20 years that maybe has changed, or that you would like to see change with youth baseball, and maybe refocus, or maybe do more of, do less of, is there something that you've noticed from a coaching parent standpoint, how it's changed?
Oh, I don't want people to take me wrong. I think the private sector can be beneficial. Absolutely. I think travel ball can be beneficial. I think what I would like to see more of is parents putting their children in a situation to where it's going to be more conducive to their development, not just exposure,
right,
but their development. To where, I'm not saying it's out there, but who's running those programs, or who's guiding and teaching? What is the intent behind it? And again, are they addressing the life lessons, or is it, hey, just procure the best talent, let's go out there and play?
Sure.
And showcase the talent so that I can attach name to player B, C, and D, and look at where they're going. Look what's happening for them so they can procure more players.
Yeah.
I would love for parents to really take that opportunity to step back and do their homework and make sure that they're putting their children in the best situation. Again, we'll go back to our pillar number 1, where it's not just about the baseball aspect of things, to where those kids are being guided and taught so that they can be successful human beings. And again, that we believe, and what I've seen in my years, that takes place. The baseball comes along with it. Because they're parallel. Those lessons are parallel, man, and can be transcended into life.
It's interesting because whenever I ask that question, some people will see this and they'll go, well, don't you run a baseball? But I do actually, but it's my forum for teaching. I understand, because I get asked quite a bit with the younger kids, like, hey, how come you're coaching? Or, how did you decide to get into coaching? So it wasn't good enough. I didn't make that choice. I just enjoyed it, and it kind of transitioned here.
How many people can really say that?
Yeah.
How many people can really say that?
Yeah.
And again, we all go back. I was blessed. I really shouldn't have had an opportunity to play anything in the Angels organization,
right.
And go back to Jim Rome. I was on his show, and he said that's why the Angels were the worst organization in baseball at that time. But again, it goes back to being honest, being truthful, to embrace who we are, so that we can continue to grow and give back. But again, I think that's a perfect example, though, Ernie, as far as what I'm discussing in my perspective, in my view of people like you that are addressing those scenarios and those situations, and making sure that they're assisting those kids, the younger generation, and being prepared so they can be quality human beings. And yes, we will address the baseball.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it gets too far overlooked, even younger, and I've noticed that. And talking to some of the younger parents now, it's funny because I'm kind of in that turnover where now I'm getting parents that maybe brought their younger players to me. Now they're bringing grandkids to me. So I'm like, wow, and you start to see the same things pop up again and get them to understand this is just a process. Whether it's baseball, soccer, football, cheerleading, whatever pursuit you make, you've got to put everything into it. The end result, whether it falls in your favor or it doesn't, the process and that journey is what you're after. The success comes with that, but you're going to get far more payback for that journey down the road than you are for that moment of success, that championship, that win, that great game on the mound, whatever it is. And so getting kids to understand this is just something that you enjoy right now, but eventually there's going to be something that you may not enjoy as much, but you have to work just as hard at.
100%. 100%. You're talking about the generations you're going through, and it's wild. Step back sometimes to where, we have former players now their sons coming through the program, former teammates now their sons are coming through the program. Talked about I was blessed to have my blood son, my middle son, come and be a part of the program and give back as well and partake in that cycle. To whereas you put them in that position, they go out and they're successful, and the options and opportunities are out there, but it's I want you to experience what I was able to experience and go back. What a unique situation.
Yeah. Or even in some cases, I want you to avoid some of the potholes that because it may not always be that smooth road, but I'm gonna tell you, okay, here's where you need to bank left because it's not going to work out. I went that way, and I can tell you it's not going to go any further.
Isn't that our job and responsibility as parents?
Yeah.
And that's where our intent is, and again, I'll go back to that's my commitment to my sons. Yeah. All my sons. Yeah. It changes every year. The list continues to grow. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's that commitment for sure is to address them so that they can not always avoid. You give your suggestions.
Sure.
You empower them to have the ability to make those decisions, whether it be good or bad, right or wrong. But are the decisions always going to be right? Are they always going to be good? Probably not. We know how it works, but okay, what are we going to do when those types of decisions are made, and how are we going to learn from them? How are we going to learn from them? And I think again we go back to the life aspect of things.
Yeah. Well, interesting. And I was thinking again as we were talking about that was when you'd mentioned having your son in the program. And that could work both ways for you. But I'm thinking from a player's perspective, I would have looked at that and said, wow, he's telling his blood son the same thing he's telling me. He's disciplining and giving his own son direction and structure on the same field that I am, and he's treating me the same way. So a lot of players might be enlightened enough to look at that and go, wow, that's caring. Yeah. He could easily, and they will spot it, because they're always looking for it. When you have that type of situation, the players are always looking for that favoritism.
Absolutely.
And they'll see it either way. But I think what a great opportunity for players to see as an example. Hey, he's making him do all the things he's asking me to do, and he's got to ride home with him, or he's got to see him after practice for 4 hours at home. So I think that would have been a different way for you to actually exemplify all the things you're talking about.
We talked about that situation earlier, and I think that was really a turning point. Really, if when people ask, when we made that transition from Dennis to myself, and again, people who know me don't look at me. Head coach, what does that mean? It means nothing to me and to us, within our program. Yes, it's a title, but I'm just one piece of the puzzle. Everybody that's involved has a role. There's a reason you're in, and you're going to contribute. Everybody, and it's about collaboration. It's about having zero egos. And if you talk to the staff, you talk to the players, absolutely there'll be something that they say. But I think that moment in time was 100% a turning point when that transition took place. When my son came on and joined, because you deliver the messages, you develop those relationships. They understand where you're coming from. Sometimes it gets repetitive to them, you know what I mean? But it was something always stuck in my head to where you continue to heed, you deliver. And if one grasps, you win. You win. Understand what the nature and the numbers game say. You would love to reach all 35, 36.
Sure.
But it's virtually impossible. But you try.
Yeah.
And the message is constant. And then when Ponce came on and was part of that team, and again, here's your opportunity. Your opportunity to make this club is not only are you going to have to make a transitional position, a positional change and transition and put that gear on, but you're going to be in one of the most selfless scenarios and situations that you could ever ask of. That's why I think it's one of the most important high character individuals to be that bullpen guy. And he deserves all the credit because he earned everything. But it was when he came on, the culture, the outlook, the attitude, the mentality of that club, and which has carried over now to where we're at present day. It was like there was just absolute 100% belief in those eyes. Like, holy cow, this old man is real.
Yeah.
There is no deciphering. There is no change. It is real. And I really believe, as tough as it is, anybody who's been out there has had to coach their son on a club. It's tough because if you are who you say you are, and your intentions are true and real, there is no deviating from that.
Yeah.
There is no deviation from that. And soon as they identified and they saw that, they connected with that, it was like, oh, wow. Boom, the eyes, the look, the change, that culture, the mentality, boom, we took off. It was great. So it was a blessing.
That was definitely a poker call moment for you because, you had to have some stomach turning times on that too. I mean, because, you try to separate that, but, you still have the boss at home and you still got Mijo and you still got, there's a lot of ways this could have gone for you. And so, just so many different points of view that were coming from that situation that you had. And so that obviously was a turning point moment for you as a coach. Is there anything else that you could think of? It may not even be one specific thing, but, when you transition from being an assistant to the head coach, is there a time that you can think of where it might have been that light bulb turned on moment, or that, wow, this is my decision kind of moment, that another turning point like that?
I think everybody who gets into coaching, I think if you get in with the right intentions, right mentality, you're going through that process, and you're paying your dues, so to speak. I think everybody when they start out is like, man, I would love to be a head coach. I'd love to be a head coach. And again, I kind of expressed how kind of we go about it and how we look at it. And then you're put in that position. You're blessed to have that opportunity. You go in. Anybody who says that there's no difference, no matter how much time you have put in, and again, we just finished year 21, and they finished year 5. So there's 16 years of being in an assistant capacity. And again, I attribute it to being involved in what Dennis, allowed us to do, and how we were able to grow under his tutelage and guidance. But anybody who says the transition is seamless, I'm gonna beg to differ.
Yeah,
it's just different. There is more responsibilities. There's you're worrying about other things that maybe weren't brought to your attention. Or maybe you weren't privy and you maybe you didn't understand why they weren't brought to your attention. But then you're put in that position. You understand why they weren't brought to your attention. And then you're trying to balance things out based on where you're at and what program. What are your resources? What's your budget allotment?
Sure.
What are those types of things? How are you going to take care of staff so you can create that consistency and that continuity because some of them, they're getting into it, and that passion, once that passion's inside of us, we don't want to go away. We want to continue giving back. We want to be a part of this game so that we can give back, and be a part of that process as well. But you're taking that responsibility. How am I going to provide them? And am I asking too much of of them with their duties and responsibilities, but not being able to compensate it with pay. So the guilt factor comes in. So no, let me take that.
Right.
And then you're dealing with, the extra hours.
Sure.
Or are we ever going to get a break? Are we ever going to get
Yeah.
And those are just examples, and
Sure.
I'm kind of being humorous and
Yeah.
funny with it, but they're real.
Yeah.
They are real. So and again, it goes back to, I think, the individual, but to me I think that's why, we get this gray, and it's been accelerated, I'll say, in the last 5 years for sure.
Right.
But that's what our makeup is. That's who we are as human beings, and trying to balance more things than maybe you were aware of, as going through, as an assistant.
Well, it leads me to my next question there. So, having been around Dennis and watch him go about his business, definitely one of the Mount Rushmore cutouts in SoCal baseball. So obviously it wasn't seamless, because we know nothing's seamless. That can be a very intimidating transition, or it can be a very easy transition, because I know he was around and I know he's always willing to help. But there had to be some looking at it from a different perspective, where if you had come in after maybe somebody had left or had quit or was fired, it's a different situation each time. But for you, how was that for you as far as transitioning from him, thinking about the ease of it? Not necessarily it's going to be easy, but maybe I missed the question here. But, was it intimidating for you to take over for Dennis, or
I wouldn't.
How did you view that?
Intimidating? I wouldn't say intimidating. Dennis's mentorship and how he ran the program, it was all about, again, I'll go back to growth and development, and maximize both sides, from the student athlete to the coaches. And again, I'll go back to the tree. That's why I think the tree is it is in total bloom, and it is something to be very, very proud of. But it was the attention to detail. It was being aware. It was him giving us the freedom to explore when he deemed it was right to, here, let's cut the reins and give you the freedom, take care of that. Okay. You would see those things. I mean, to something simplistic, to where this is funny. And again, this is an ex-teammate of mine whose son is now going to be a part of the program this year, who's a head coach at Cal Poly, Randy Benton.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We were coaching at the same time. And this is funny, but Dennis could really, really swing the fungo, man. He could really hit the fungo, and took a tremendous amount of pride in our infield, outfield. And it was kind of an honor if he allowed you
right to take over,
to hit infield in a pregame situation. So he kind of created that competitiveness. He kind of created that environment to where, hey, man, I mean, I could tell you, Randy and I would have fungo. We'd be in the cages after we get done with player development. Players would all go home. We'd be in there having target practice with fungos, hitting fungos, for extra time. But it was that sense of pride that he instilled. Again, some competitiveness, not directly, but indirectly. Sure. Kind of keeping that in there. So we understood the importance of the foundations, and so the intimidation, I knew it was there. It was all in place. But I was asked that question a ton, as far as, how you gonna fill those shoes? And my response has been from day one, instantaneously, I'm not. I don't have any intentions whatsoever to fill his shoes. And like you alluded, I mean, you look at him in the game, his face is one of the Mount Rushmores, that you would put up there. And then you go from him, and then you go to his mentor, and Coach Scalinas, So, I mean, not one moment or minute bit of time did I ever consider filling his shoes. I didn't. It was more important to me to continue the tradition, continue the history, and continue what he established, and keep that in line and progressing forward in the future to to giving the platform, the environment, and the culture for those young men coming in and wanting to be a part of the RCC Tiger family.
Yeah, that was a question I definitely wanted to make sure I'd asked you. Just, from a curiosity standpoint, because you see go back to for Dodger fans, when Walter Alston stepped down and Tommy Lasorda took over. When Tommy Lasorda left, who took over? There's always going to be that. And it's tough to be that person in those shoes, because there's sometimes where you can never do anything right, as opposed to coming into a situation where it's just chaos and, hey, anything I do right is going to be good enough. And now you had to carry on a tradition and a big one.
Yeah.
You guys have had a heck of a run over there from when he came in to now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the individual, Ernie, as far as like, who are you and what is your intentions, And I think our intentions are right. And again, if we take each day as, have we stopped? We don't stop. We're waking up, and how am I going to get better today? It doesn't stop, and that's something that we try to portray and instill into the young men when they step foot day one. That's something that they're going to get. And some of the young men, they'll kid around and joke around. We like to be humorous as well. It's not serious all the time, but they'll mimic me, and you can tell I talk with my hands, and I'll catch them,
Sure.
They're giving a Rudy talk. Here's a life lesson Rudy talk, a Rudy philosophies, being broke down. But again, it's something that was instilled, and something that we're proud of, and it's just a tremendous amount of pride. And again, it's not about filling shoes, because those shoes can never be filled in my mind. It's about progressing and continuing the tradition and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. I'm gonna be blunt. And I ask all the coaches this because we start off as players and you transition up, and so finish out your career there, college. Thoughts about moving up? Anything talked at home with the missus about, hey, if this opportunity comes up, or kids have a dream school they want to play for. If a dream opportunity comes up, if you have one, thoughts on that?
I'm gonna be blunt back.
Okay, I appreciate that.
For me, this is not blunt. For me, again, we shared a little bit about my journey and the history. And when you start out, there's no question your aspirations, your dreams, just as they were as a player, as a coach, you want to get back, especially if you had that experience to play, high level collegiate baseball. Mm-hmm. I got to the last game in Omaha in the College World Series, unfortunate or fortunate, runner up. And to come back, and if it wasn't for RCC, if it wasn't for Dennis Rogers being at RCC, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And when you get vested with so much time, Ernie, circumstantial things happen within our lives, and changes come about. Families grow. Mm-hmm. Roots are established. Time vested becomes, and that's where I'm at. I just think we don't allow the complacency, and as long as you don't allow the complacency, the continued growth and the enrichment of that environment and culture can continue. Mm-hmm. And where my heart is, where my passion is, where my family's at, the time vested in RCC, what RCC has done for me, I feel I am RCC. Okay. And yeah. I have no aspirations, no intentions of leaving RCC. And, if I'm blessed to be able to have that opportunity continued and finish out, my days to retirement, I see myself absolutely retiring as an RCC Tiger. I get asked, the dream job. I literally am in my dream job, but for laughs and giggles, my wife always says, well, what if Arizona State called you? What if Arizona State called you? And I said, honey, I'm a realist. Arizona State is not going to call. That's to throw out some humor there, but
so I know where my prank's going to be.
yeah. It's RCC, thick and thin, and I couldn't be more happier. And it's not about lip service or a pitch.
Sure.
I truly do feel that, I am the epitome of what community college and specifically RCC is.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And like I said, the nature of coaching, and sometimes when you're paying your dues, it might mean relocating. That's why a lot of the guys that get into it aren't married or don't have roots, because it's not a job that you're going to get where you want to go without a lot of sacrifice. And so you've sacrificed and you've gotten to this point, and sometimes you look for other challenges, and if you can find them right there where you are and you're happy, then that's wonderful. Just the nature of coaching is always to move around. So I always ask guys, it's tough when you...
Oh, no question. And again, like I said, it's been rooted, had some opportunities when I first got in, and, didn't work out for whatever reason. And I'm a firm believer as well as, hey, things do happen for a reason. Where do we move? Where do we make our adjustments? How do we grow from it? And it just happens that, here we are now from just the coaching aspect of things, finishing year 21. It's I'm a tiger.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Like I said, I always curious about that with kids or for the kids, and with coaches too, because it's just, baseball is, it's a transient game sometimes, and it's hard
and again, I'll go back, Ernie, to it's perspective, and for me, it's been an absolute blessing, because you talk about getting into this profession and wanting to give back, and having your personal goals and aspirations to achieve levels and experience levels, and having the opportunity to impact at this program or that program. If you're getting into this profession, it's tough to say today's day and age. You best be committed and absolutely 100% willing to be making sacrifices if this is what you want to do, because we are servants. We are servants, and we have to be selfless. More than anything, and that's just in my opinion.
Yeah.
And those who are willing and fortunate to be in those positions to make those sacrifices, the opportunities will be there. They will be there. It's just, can you sustain it?
Yeah.
Can you sustain making those sacrifices to when that call comes? And take advantage.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know. I'm glad to hear that. So, I won't take any more of your time, but I will give you the public service announcement portion. You're talking to our 8 viewers out there, our 20 YouTube subscribers, but you can talk about anything you want. If you're talking to all the high school kids in Riverside area, if there's something you wanted to tell them about your program and what you would like to have them know about RCC, something that they might only hear directly from you, what would it be?
I don't know if it's specifically, just about RCC. We would like to think that, hey, our intentions are pretty similar, throughout the country, what we're dealing. But, specifically if it was me and it was coming out of my mouth, and I'm sitting there across from a recruit, and maybe the parents are there. It's about Riverside City College and its baseball program, the institution, what it entails. It's going to be about integrity and high character. And again, we'll go back to pillar number 1, about the human being. And you're going to have focus, you're going to have intent. There's going to be purpose each and every day on addressing that human being element, and how you're going to be able to maximize your development and growth, and really change the mindset on being the best human being I possibly can be from day one to when your tenure's up, and really, does the tenure end here at RCC? No, once you're a part of it, you're a part of this for life. Explain that to you, even though we haven't had this type of moment before. We truly believe that. And again, if the passion burns, the mind is open, you're willing to address especially that pillar number one and pillar number two is, taking the academic aspect and arena seriously to put yourself in position to formulate that plan B. We'll give you the resources. We are committed to it. That is priority number one when it comes to you as the student athlete, because to have those opportunities and options at the next level, you can't avoid it. There's no avoiding that aspect. You got to fulfill the academic requirements to put yourself so that you can obtain that degree. That has got to be high on the priority list. And then from the baseball aspect, seems like a lot of time and commitment, right. And yes, it is. But if it's important to you, young man, you're going to be committed to it. You're going to be diligent with it. And it won't be about work. We won't even utilize the word work because it just becomes part of your fiber. It becomes second nature. It becomes instinctual, And then from the baseball stand, roll up the sleeves, and I hope this collar is blue. Because if it is, then you will accelerate. You will be able to accelerate your development and your growth within the game. And it's not about just the physical tools and abilities, but we're going to tap into that mental aspect as well to prepare you as best we possibly can.
Good. Actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about something else I did want to ask you too. With the current situation and the way that the season ended for a lot of the guys, and you had mentioned earlier, it's that senior year that you start really building contact and momentum with a lot of the guys. How has your recruiting process been going? Tons of video, a lot of conversations. Are you a good texter now, or how does that work for you guys right now at this point? I mean, you've got to have hours of video you've poured over, I'm sure, now with that.
Tons of video, Ernie, that hasn't really changed. It's the video has been prevalent, but it just seems like now it's being shared amongst all staff members instead of maybe 1 to 2 guys. It's going through all staff members, and we have the time. Now, if you ask me to set up a Zoom, I'm going to say it on air. Yeah, I'm not setting it up, and thank you for one of our staff members and coaches and Zach Grande for setting up our Zooms. He does that, but it's been Zoom. It's been GroupMe. It's been the transition of the classroom format. So everything that was lab-oriented, lecture-oriented, face-to-face, transitioned to online. So we have our baseball format online. So there is communication. There's connection. There's interaction going on. Text, phone calls. It took. There's one incident. It took 8 weeks. And we were in a unique situation, and I imagine there was other programs, and some of the coaches that I've talked to said they were, but it took us 8.5 weeks, almost 9 weeks, for the institution to allow me to get into our clubhouse, gather the players' personal belongings, bag them up, tag them, throw them in the truck, drove to my house, and then I had the players come to my house and pick up. So I was happy to do that because my wife said I was walking around with a big smile on my face because I got to have interaction.
Yeah.
And I would tell her, hey, we had masks on.
Yeah.
But I got to see them.
Yeah.
And as much as they probably needed it or they were striving to have that type of interaction, oh man, what a great day it was for me as well to have that as well. But yes, it's made us adjust. Go back to the question, from a recruiting standpoint, just because we're a JC and just because we know you're not waking up every morning and going, hey, I can't wait to be an RCC Tiger, we take the same approach from a recruiting standpoint. We just started later in the process of the players' years, but we're out there, we're identifying, we're seeing, we're creating our lists, we're in communication and we have interaction with them. So we had our list, pretty much set going in as far as where our numbers wanted to be. We fully anticipated there was going to be an influx of phone calls and things of that nature. And again, that's where we've gone back, where I shared with you. We're straight up front and honest with what our situation is and what we're trying to do. And, the guys that are trying to walk on and things of that nature. This is what we need you to do. Here's the umbrella. We'll give you the opportunity. There are no guarantees, but this is the opportunity if you want it. You know? Yeah. And I think the honesty and being upfront has paid dividends.
Yeah, I'm hoping things open up soon so we can get back to somewhat normal. But, again, fortunate through unfortunate times, we got to sit down and have this conversation.
Blessing.
And like we talked about, your schedule would be booked solid on a Friday, and you guys are heading off right now to enjoy a little bit of the weekend. And sometimes, like you mentioned, things happen for a reason. So this is your big break to refresh, renew, and when things open up, everybody can get back to the grind again.
Absolutely.
So they've had a nice long break. But thanks for coming out, Coach.
Ernie,
I appreciate it. It was great chatting with you. We'll definitely have to have a part 2 during the season when you guys are playing. Talk about some of the games, talk about some of the things that have been going on once everybody's back. I'm really interested to hear how things flow when everybody gets back on track.
I would love to do that. If we'll set some time up, you let us know, and we'll come down, and we'd love to share anything to promote. Yeah. To promote our beautiful game.
Yeah, I'd love to see if we can get the guys down to the field. That'd be nice to do something outside.
Let me know. We'll do it.
All right. Thanks again, done. Coach.
My pleasure.
Guys, that's another edition for you. I want to thank Coach Rudy Arguelles again from RCC, our sponsors, Chihuahua Cerveza, 100% Media, and, of course, Adam Schwartz Real Estate. So until next Friday, we'll see you.